Looking at the charts, you and me have different questions running in our mind. The answers can be upside or the downside. But the easy way to think about this is you may get another opportunity to buy your favorite asset at a lower price. And what does that mean for your portfolio? And what does that lower price mean for the actual macro trend? Is your asset turning bearish in the macro scale? Of course not. As I posted in the Patreon and Telegram alerts, you now have different opportunities running in many different assets. You just need to understand them and execute your game plan, because those will give you the ultimate profit which you actually want. Now, from here, pay close attention because this may seriously impact your pocket and your portfolio in many different ways. If you take the wrong turn here, that would end up so badly in this market cycle for you. The news for masses shows institutions are entering into crypto in a huge manner. That's not one or two institutions or one or two news showing you that. That's from different side. They show it's a great asset to invest in, and you kind of have a huge opportunity or a symmetrical upside. That's why they are all entering. And then the exchanges itself highlight that, it's not only Bitcoin, they're also entering into Ether. The money is going into Ether as well. So they need or they want you to put your money based on what they are saying, highlighting you need to be buying Bitcoin or Ether. That's, indirectly what it is. Always remember, they trade based on your money. They want to make money from you, right? Always remember, they trade to take your money from you, and they calls you dumb money. And they act as a smart money at the end of the day. So, it's always retail traders who become that dumb guys. You can allow them to take your money, or you can be brave for you and your family to get through this market cycle instead of looking at, these guys stating, it's going to $1 million and other stuff. You can just look at what the reality is by going into the charts. Price action never lies, and you almost get the idea what the price action is doing, whether the RSI is showing you the upside, downside, or sideways action at least. Is the price showing you a downside? You'll have to look at all of those, because when BTC does this, you are going to be impacted in many different ways, even if you are in different asset. The opportunities will always be at that point, and you just have to seize it. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. Institutions are really killing on this, right? They are highlighting you have to buy this in, the indirect way. Say XRP Crypto Wolf showed me this one highlighting $1.6 billion Pantera capital. They are highlighting that Bitcoin market has reached an inflection point. Moorhead said the firm has received a ton of inbound calls from endowments and other institutional investors looking for exposure. What does that actually mean? For me, at least in the practical case, I see the actual turnover is happening in XRP. When majority are talking about one particular asset which has already doubled from its all-time high, say 10x more than its bottom. If you're looking at the bottom, it should be say 3,300 or 3,300, and you reached around 44k, so that's 10 to 15x from the bottom. So do you think these institutions were actually not riding this wave, putting all the money in, or do you think they are just entering now? They are FOMOing in, not even at 20,000, around 35 to 40. Do you think that? I personally don't. And when I see an asset which is kind of really at its all-time low or near to that, at least 92% below its all-time highs, that's a huge opportunity, at least till the all-time high. Now, look at the statements made by Ashish in this series of tweets. Now, we'll have to go through each of them because there is a lot more for us to digest well. It shows you the real potential or what really is happening in the background when there is the cloud of confusion spread around the retail investors. The reality shows the execution state. Now, when you look at these, you can see Ripple, Lulu Exchange and Federal Bank. Now, Lulu Exchange is in Middle East and Federal Bank is in India. Now, that's not the government bank there. That's still a private institution just named as Federal Bank. But still, when you look at that, the remittance corridor to India is one of the biggest, not one of the biggest, the biggest you can call. And if that market is being taken over by Ripple like this, which, in this series of tweets, you're going to get why I say that. There is a response from Ashish there, which you can clearly understand why these are really the turning point. This is kind of the turning point where if you enter, there is a lot of opportunity. For me, I enter and I wait, I buy and I hold, not being emotional at any time, taking my profit and running away. Yes, if there is a 300-500% run in a day or a week, I would take 10 to 20% of my profits and wait for it to drop. If it drops, cool, I'll buy low, or I'll still ride the wave with the rest of the 70 to 80%. So do remember when these guys are highlighting, they are huge on this. Howard and Gale endowments among those reportedly buying crypto. Okay, they are buying the dip. Cool. Now, the question is, their traders would be way experienced than retail traders or what we are doing here. So personally, I'm looking at this and like, okay, so they don't actually see this. They don't see these patterns forming. Or is it kind of a fake pattern which they are creating just to, confuse us or just to push us in the wrong direction? But personally, I don't actually think so, because most of the time when you look at the charts, you have different indicators, right? Now, for majority of us, we'll at least look at this and we understand, okay, now this is actually a bad stuff. How you want to understand that? You can actually measure these moves from the top to the bottom and see which is showing you what. Say this is the bottom, which is 4.43, and if you measure the same stuff from the top here, you kind of get 10%. So say the average would be around 5-6%, and the possibility of that price move would be towards 10%. Now, if you actually want to do that, you'll take here and look, say what that average means. So the average itself would be taking you way lower, 60. So currently at 62, still there is room for BTC to go down. Now, what does that maximum mean? Say if you are coming towards that 10-11%, you are reaching the bottom of this wick here. Now, each and everything has a reason for itself, right? The wick here came all the way towards that bottom where we broke out, and that's the target. So if we are to come back till that point, again, altcoin would be running huge. Now, you do have to understand all of this before you enter into any different asset, or you kind of say, okay, this is it, I'm moving out of this particular asset. Instead of doing that, I'm looking at different portfolios and I'm seeing many people are moving from alts to BTC, saying, okay, this is that BTC is finding that bottom at 30 and it's going all the way to 1 million. Maybe you're right. But at least looking at the price and how it creates these patterns and how these patterns have played out in the past, I personally think there is still a downside. Now, I can be wrong, but what I show you is based on what I see in the charts, and I justify those with the price action. Here, if you look at this, you can see, okay, this is like the price went up, this is printing a rising wedge, and that's usually a trend where we would be going to the downside. Okay, I agree that, but here when you look at that, you have to understand, say if the price is moving like this and the pattern is being created like this, it's a broadening wedge, whereas here what we are getting as of now looks like this. So the pattern, we are expecting 60% to go to the downside. Okay, But still, when you zoom in and look at this, what do you actually see? The price actually came down, but the buyers entered into that market and pushed it to the upside. Okay, now that's on a 12-hour chart. What you can do is you can go into a weekly, monthly, or wherever and look at how things are doing. Here, it clearly is stepping to the upside one by one. It was a flag pattern here, then it broke to the upside. Again, it showed a lot of volatility there when Bitcoin also showed the same volatility. Now, if you look at the same zoomed out a little bit more, say on a monthly, what do you actually see? Personally, this is so clear for me, at least. I'm seeing a double bottom or an Adam and Eve pattern. Now, double bottom or the W's or however you call it, it's kind of the symbol where you say, okay, this is a win-win situation, right? This is a win-win situation. At least for my eyes, it does look like that. You can call this a rounded bottom. You can call this a cup and handle. You can call this a double bottom. Whatever it is, it actually shows you that double bottom, which indicates W. And what does that W mean in trading? When you see stuff like this, that's a win if you enter. If it is the opposite, M, that's double top, or you're gonna lose or more downside, right? So if altcoin is showing you this, what does Bitcoin market actually show you? Right? That's a real question which you actually have to ask, because this is the Bitcoin market cap. And what do you actually see? Now you personally have to ask, okay, are you seeing something like this? Or are you actually looking at this in a manner, say, I'll just delete that and try to put that one more. Are you seeing something like this? What is the possibility? The pattern, how does it actually evolve? These are questions you have to answer yourself, but you can also use the past or the history to help you out. So say you go into a 3-day chart, a weekly chart, or a daily chart to look at the patterns and how these patterns evolved, right? So you go into history and you find different stuff all around, and this is a 3-day chart. So even if you go into a daily, you're going to get these trends which I'm highlighting here as elaborate. We were trending to the downside. We were printing something like this. Okay, so if you take the close of the candle as the bottom, you got that measured move to the downside. Now this is on a 3-day. If you go to a daily, 12-hour or 4-hour, you'll clearly understand what I'm pointing you towards. Now I hope that's clear for you. Now, that's not one time. You go into Bitcoin history, price history, and follow that, and you understand what really is happening there. Now you again come back here and try to plot this like this. Okay, that is cool. You see something there, and then you look at like, okay, this was the bottom there, this was the top here, this was the bottom here, and we look something like this. But as we have that support resistance zone here, we have to break that and go below. So that's the wick at the bottom, and that is also the 50-day moving average, which is currently acting as a support there. So once we break that and move to the downside, then you have a confirmation that we are going much lower. And what will that give you? That's going to give you additional opportunities. If XRP is to break this pattern to the downside, when BTC does, your target should be around 20 to 26% to the downside. So that means you can set your order somewhere around 0.2, 0.22, or it depends. For me, I would be looking at 0.24, 0.22, 0.2, and 0.18, because always there is a chance for the price to wick down, and if it does and your order is kicked in, you will be in profit as soon as it returns. So the market needs that confirmation, right? So now when you look at these conflicting information, in one, it says Bitcoin price could reach about 146,000. Says JP Morgan strategist. Okay, cool. And that news was from Jan 5th. Now on Jan 25th, it shows Bitcoin is a risk rather than a safe asset, says JP Morgan strategist. Now I'm looking at that author, Yogita, and thinking, okay, in 20 days, what happened to her? She kind of changed her entire opinion using the same strategist. So what kind of notes did she actually collect while if she had interviewed a JP Morgan guy? So that's kind of conflicting, right? So you always have to look at this kind of stuff. So the bottom of this cycle was like 3,300 and you're looking at huge price fluctuation. Now, say here, Pom was actually talking with a gold guy, right? Daniela usually, if you go to her previous channel or the current channel she runs, you can see they always talk about gold, silver. Now, recently, with Robert Kiyosaki and others highlighting Bitcoin, they do Bitcoin as well. But if you go to her previous interviews and check out the interviews with Jim Rogers and others, you will always understand what the SI is saying. Now, what I'm conveying here is not just my idea, whereas all of these I have learned from those experts during their discussions. Now, this is something XRP holders should pay close attention to. Ashish here highlights this thing that we processed 3 million transactions on the RippleNet in 2020. So that's the last year. And on-demand liquidity is rapidly growing. On-demand liquidity transactions accounted for 2.4 billion in notional value. So think, it's not the RippleNet transaction, it's the on-demand liquidity transaction, 2.4 billion. Can you really say that's not the real use case which you are seeing? We planted the RippleNet flag in 18 new countries and signed 15 deals after the SEC complaint was made. Wow. Do you really understand what's happening? When SEC in one country is going against them, they actually expanded in 18 different countries, signing 15 new deals. Wow, that's really huge. I don't know how you conceive this or digest this, but for me, that's kind of bullish. And I'm looking back at my XRP portfolio and thinking, okay, should I add more or should I, just control my emotion? Because thinking as an investor, while everyone else is hating on this asset and the psychology is low, when the price is too low, that's when you actually go aggressive. Now, when I say aggressive, always be an investor and go defensively aggressive. Now, the next one shows APEC is still our busiest region. So Asia Pacific is one of the busiest region. Customer demand and transaction growth is high there. In India, we are working with 3 by 5 of the biggest bank. Now that's really important because if they are covering 3 by 5 of the top banks there, they're getting 90% of all those money transaction. Towards India is one of the biggest world of remittance and growing rapidly. Now, I completely agree that and could be our largest soon. That is 3 by 8. That's going to be huge. Every customer and partner joins RippleNet with the same base service and a crypto wallet. So, if they want to store their money as a crypto, and which crypto you think they would be buying in RippleNet to execute their transfers through ODL? I don't have much of a doubt there, but if you do, you can ask yourself. You'll get your reply. Okay, anyway, RippleNet is designed to seamlessly upgrade and add new services when ready. And now this is the really important point. We are evolving from strictly payments into a platform with tokenized services. Those who were following me from last year, at least 3 to 5 months, I've always highlighted you government documents, IMF reports, BIS reports, all those institutional stuff, supranational reports from United Nations, World Economic Forum, and a lot of other institutions like NTT Data, DTCC and others, highlighting this tokenization service on XRP Ledger using XRP the asset. If you heard that then and you bought it and you are so confident about your asset, you are still holding strong and you are still looking at the same stuff. I hope you actually heard about the Peter Lynch stating, if the fundamental of your asset doesn't change, don't change your decision. You entered into that based on a fundamental strategy for the long run. And if that is not changed, then the market valuation doesn't actually mean you should change that, because market is not always efficient. If the actual price of one asset is say $100, the market can go to zero or the market can go to 1,000 because market is always inefficient and trying to find that actual value highlighted in the price. Now, the next one, we purposefully built RippleNet to get financial institutions comfortable with using a blockchain-based network for fiat transaction. And when they are ready, flip the switch for ODL now. Guys, I don't know how you actually conceive this. He's using that term, flip the switch for ODL, line of credit, and soon to come new products. So what are these new products? We don't know, but once you get familiar with the blockchain based transaction, then you're going into digital asset based stuff. That's clearly highlighted when they are, showing that first they are getting them into that. Second, they are giving them chance to work with tokenized services. So there are a lot of stuff coming because they highlighted that they are working with remittance as of now, but they are not only looking at remittance. So what would be the next? It can be derivatives market. The entire securities market, trading, back-end processing, all of these were discussed previously here using different documents. Now, when you look at this and the expansion of the company, you can't actually neglect that because they are really expanding. They are really providing that use case, solving the pain points for the customers. And when you look at the massive chart of this, the long term, if you want to look at it on a daily or a monthly, you are still above that trend. And even if you drop like this 26%, what does it mean? It's still above this trend line. You see, the last week was 0.1675 and we're still managing that trend line. If you go here, it's clear for you. So, it's just a matter of how you understand. And if I'm trying to help you guys to understand and you do understand this, I definitely believe you are receiving value, right? So if you are, then do hit that like and subscribe button. Now, I know you're thinking why I'm not saying anything about the Patreon. Guys, it's cool if you want to join, get these alerts for all the different coins. It's cool, but it's 27th of this month. Right? If you enter now, you would be paying now and again on 1st of the month and going through that refund process again and again when I'm already managing around 650 Patreon members. It's really hard. So I'll say if you want to enter now using basic tier and then upgrade to the level which you actually want to manage your portfolio. That would be better. Otherwise, wait just for 4 days. If the market drops, as I told, cool. Go look at different assets. When you find bargain, buy into that. And if you actually want to know which asset is going to work the best in this market cycle, yes, cool. Then again, you'll have to jump onto the tier which allows you to do that in the Patreon. So guys, that's all for today and I'll meet you on the next video. Bye for now.